All right, on this video, I'm gonna show you how to do a tail. I was taught to do this way by our instructor, Richard from PRT. This is called the poor man's tail. Now, why this is called the poor man's tail is you need nothing special. You literally need Loctite super glue, 2 2x4s, and a couple clamps. So guess what, guys, for the first time in the lining world, no special expensive tools required. All right, so we'll go over this. So we're going to start with, you have your liner. We have this marked out. This is our waist. So this is what's, cut off after we wet out the liner. You always want to glue your tail on before your remote start. We do our remote starts identical to the way I'm teaching you to do this tail. So you can treat this as your tail or your remote start. So the waist, well, this will be cut off after we wet out the liner. You always want to do this before the liner is wet out. So I went ahead, let's start. So I got my waist mark. We like to do a foot of waist. In case you don't know, I'll just dive into that. That's for when we're trying to wet out our liner. We're not trying to hit a perfect mark to stop our liner here. And if you try to wet out to an end cut, liner comes out and it's, epoxy comes out and it's messy. So what we like to do is just go ahead. We'll try to stop it somewhere right here because we know we're going to cut this off. So it's no big deal. Whether you're using epoxy, UV resin, any of that's the same. So waist is marked, whether you want to do a foot, 2 foot, 6 inches, whatever you prefer. So from your waist mark, I like to go 1 inch. So I'm going to put a tape measure right here for reference. So we're going to go 1 inch. Then I like to go another 2 inches. So we're at 3 inches, and then I mark at 5. And you're going to notice I use 2 different color Sharpies. The red are going to be our glue joints. So the black marks are literally there just to help us line up. So went ahead and marked this. So we've got 1 glue joint at 1 inch, another glue joint at 3 inches, and then this mark right here is just the end of the cowl tube. So pull it out of the way. Here's my cowl tube. This is stitched cowl tube. You're going to notice this is what it looks like when you unroll it. We like to just invert it because I don't want to be gluing on this tough, you can see right here the stitching and how it's not flat through here. So what I went ahead and did is just inverted this so now it's on the outside because I really want to be gluing on the smooth side right here. So all I did literally was just invert it. So now we've got it inverted, the stitches are up. So what I'll do now is I will go ahead and slide my cowl tube over the liner. So now these marks are going to make sense. This one right here is just a stop mark. So that's only there to let me know that's the end of where the cowl tube is. I went ahead and transcribed my Sharpie marks over, but this is where I would literally just take my red Sharpie, glue joint, and then I put this first black mark on it right here. And you may ask, well, if that's not a glue joint, Thomas, why'd you put that on here? You're gonna see later, when I peel this back, that's my joint to line everything up on. So I've got those marked on both sides. That is important. So, and when I do this, I like to use a straight edge. That way we have nice straight lines. That's really important because we're doing thin glue joints. So now that I have this lined up, everything is marked up, I have put my Sharpie marks on this side. Now this is what's gonna be really nice. So now I'm gonna go ahead and pull this back. And now I'm literally just gonna fold this back over. And now that I'm folding this over, you're going to see that the smooth side of the cowl tube, which is what I told you I wanted to glue on, is actually what we're going to be gluing. So if you do not invert the cowl tube, you'll end up with that stitched side. And it may work out good for you, but to me it just makes sense not to be gluing on those stitches where we have a lot of uneven space. So I've literally just folded that back to there. Now, notice my Sharpie marks are on the inside. So that's nice. So now I don't have to worry about them smudging or going away when I'm doing that. putting my glue on there or cleaning it. So now that I have this done, I just want to get this folded back. Try to get this flat. A lot of times people want to be in a rush when they're doing stuff. You got to just slow down. And I promise you, if you just slow down and get everything right, everything goes so much better. So get this nice and flat, okay? Now, what I've got here is rubbing alcohol. You can use acetone. This is 99% rubbing alcohol. We like to use 99% because, especially with the UV stuff, we use this to clean our Dan cutter. If we get UV resin on it when we're cutting reinstatements, if we get any UV resin on the liner, on the table, or hands, the 99% really cuts it better than like if you get like the 70%. So it's kind of hard to find. We order it on Amazon, but the 99% does really well. So what I'm gonna do now is just take a rag, which I do not have, that I should have. Okay, all right, we're back with a rag. So again, what I like to do is take the rubbing alcohol. I'm just gonna go ahead and give me a good spray right here. Now what I wanna do is, I'm really just wanting to wipe where I've got my Sharpie marks. And the reason I'm doing this is just if there's any oil, just anything on the liner, I'm actually gonna do the same thing to my cowl tube, because we just wanna, prep our glue surface as good as we can. You don't have to clean the whole thing. You don't have to like drown it in rubbing alcohol or acetone, just spray a little bit. Little trick, this is why I like to put my Sharpie marks on this side, because right now I'd be wiping them away with my alcohol and it just makes it a little bit harder. So, got everything done. One good thing about the alcohol, it dries really quick. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we are going to take two 2x4s. Now, these 2x4s, the reason we have tape on them is literally just to mark that, hey, we use these for this, and don't just grab it and use it to chuck the wheel on the trailer or use it for something crazy. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm literally just going to use these to hold my liner up off the table. Now the glue we are using is this Loctite super glue. It's the gel. Works really good. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm literally just gonna go ahead and, you have to twist it in. You do not have to use a ton. This one tube will be enough to do both. So I'm literally just gonna put a thin bead here, thin bead here. I'm now going to flip this over. I strongly suggest using some 2x4s. Do not try, because if this stuff hits the table, you're done. Again, thin bead. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go ahead and, I should have already had this slid on here, guys, sorry. So I'm actually going to line my black mark up here. All right, so again, I'm gonna take red right here for my glue, put a thin bead there, thin bead here. Now, I'm gonna flip this around. Go ahead and do a thin bead here. Now, Stephanie, this is where I'm gonna need your help. Again, we're gonna do a thin bead here. You're gonna be running out of glue about now. All right, so Stephanie, what I want you to do is just hold this tight, just right there. Now, this is one thing to where you're just gonna wanna take your hands and you're just gonna pull this, guys. Don't be scared of it. Just pull it on over, just like that, boom. Now, everything matched up. See how my marks, that's where everything comes into play. Now I'm literally gonna take this 2x4 and this 2x4 and we're gonna sandwich it just like that. And I'm just gonna take regular clamps, nothing special. We're gonna put that one right there. We're gonna put another one right here. Just clamp this thing down. All right, now we're gonna give that 5 or 10 minutes. Go ahead and set a timer on your phone. We're gonna do that now. We'll come back and we'll show you how strong this is. All right, we're back. It's been about 10 minutes. Me and Stephanie just took a break. We worked on some other things while we're letting this glue dry. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm literally just gonna go ahead and just take these clamps off real quick. All right, so a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, are gonna be like, what the hell, Thomas? I don't trust that shit. I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought the same way. So I'm telling you, this method has not failed us yet. Knock on some wood. Out here, my little wood. We have not had one blow off yet. And believe it or not, we do our remote starts the exact same way. A lot of people, I'm gonna just touch base real quick on remote starts. A lot of people are scared of remote starts. I was too. This is essentially a remote start just on the other end of the pipe. So you can do this 10 feet down the line, 50, 60, 70, whatever you want to. So we do our remote starts the exact same way. All right. So one thing I will say, when we're doing this, one thing I really like to always do, and when I've showed people how to do this, they've been so skeptical of this. I'm like, well, let's try to pull it off. Like, go ahead, try to pull it off right now. So it's just me here in the shop, but I'm going to show you. The liner I'm using today is Max Liner, Flex Liner. This is a step above their scrim liner. This is a really good liner. We like to use, I use it a lot. So basically I'm gonna go ahead and throw that extra liner, because again, we're gonna wet this out and I'm gonna shoot this and I'm gonna show you just how much air pressure this will hold. This will hold 20 PSI, no problem. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this tail, just, you know, the end of the cow tube, I'm gonna put it on the floor. Stephanie will show you, I'm stepping on it. And I'm gonna pull up on this as hard as I can. So, you got a good angle, Steph?
Yeah.
All right. That's all I've got, okay? So again, I'm gonna do it again. It won't come off. I may have looked crazy doing that, but I wanted to show you, I promise you this works. Now, we've shot liner and it not go good. And then one good thing about this, we've reeled it back. I've reeled back 100 foot of this flex liner with this tail, never pulled off, and then shot it and it did fine. So that's my tail. This is the poor man's tail. Now, I'm gonna touch on a few things about this. This is not a perfect airtight tail, okay? I would only use this tail method if I was using UV. Some of you people that have not used UV yet are going to ask, well, why is that, Thomas? Well, when you're using UV, we're using a lot of air, okay? We got air whistling out of the pull motors where the PEX is going through. We're using a big air compressor, a 70, 100 CFM air compressor. So this joint right here, while it will not come loose, it is not airtight. So I would not use this method if you're ambient curing. I wouldn't use this method if you're hot water curing. I would only recommend using this on UV because it doesn't matter if it leaks a little bit of air. You've got so much you're using already. You're whistling air out of your push rod for your UV light. This works really well. Again, like I said, quick, easy. For UV, it's no problem. If I'm doing ambient, guys, and let's say I'm doing an ambient cure and I'm going to use a tail, which I would probably use the Picote lining glue and a bladder. That is going to be more of an airtight, where if you're running like a pancake compressor or a small electric air compressor, you're going to want to use that tail method. UV, guys, this all day long has not failed us yet. Remote starts the same way. And we're going to talk about remote starts a little bit, because that's one of the main reasons I want to make this video. So again, this is our tail. You know, same thing. We'll Z-fold this. We'll tie it up. We'll put our pull rope on it. We'll load it in our drum. But this is a tail, right? So if this was your tail, this is going to be the first part. I'm sorry, if this was a remote start, this is going to be the first part going in your drum. So we'll go ahead and, I'm sorry, excuse me, your tail is always your first part going in drum. Excuse me, getting ahead of myself. If this is going to be a remote start, this would be the very last part going in your drum. So as you're rolling the liner in your drum, it's going in there. This is what's going to be coming out of the nozzle. And what a remote start means is you're basically shooting, it's coming out cow tube, cow tube, cow tube, cow tube, then your liner starting down the line. So my liner is actually starting away from my drum. You may ask why you need to do that. Why would you ever want to, have a remote start? Well, if you're shooting down a clean out, let's say you're going down a clean out, well, that clean out, let's say it's 6 foot deep, you've got your sewer line coming in down here, where if you shoot solid liner, you've closed this off. That's a really hard cut to get back in. So what we'll do is we'll shoot remote start down, and we'll start the liner after the clean out. So, or we can start, or you may be lining something that's PVC. It's already been partially replaced with PVC and it's turned into cast iron 30 feet down. And it may have a bunch of reinstatements that you don't want to cut back in, even though you have a Dan cutter. You may have all the equipment. That's going to add extra expense to the homeowner. So a lot of times you may do a remote start to keep the cost of the job down. So there's the benefits of a remote start. A lot of people struggle, and we did too, with how am I going to get my remote start off? I'm going to make another video because that's going to be kind of detailed. There's several different ways, but I'll have another video on how to get a remote start off. It's honestly going to surprise you and save you a lot of time. All right, everyone. Stephanie made me come back on. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can find other videos we're putting out there on how to get the tails and remote start off.